this video, I'm going to be talking about the sheer size of the behemoth using pixels, trees, mountains, statements, and so on to get the 3 dimensions of the behemoth. And then once I've finished all the calculations and get all the numbers, then I'll tell you how big it is, if it's planetary in size or country, star, etc. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and hopefully you learn something new. To start off, we need to know the size of the trees in the ancient Fairy King's forest, and based on the statement that says the light of divine grace is 7,900 feet tall, and we see that the trees around the structure is near its height, but with my calculation, the difference between the tower and the trees, it is 1.1 times difference in terms of height, which if we divide 7,900 feet by 1.1, it would be equal to 7,181 feet tall, which is 7.1 times taller than the average mountain in our world. But with this information, we also know that the forest grows quickly too, mainly due to the Fountain of Youth, which even King mentions that the forest can't grow this big in 20 short years without the Fountain of Youth, but a fairy tells King that the Fountain of Youth exists due to Bond giving his blood to the forest every 4 years, which with this information we can quantify how much the ancient Fairy King's forest would grow in 1 year, due to how much it grew in a few seconds, which if you use this scan of Jericho, who is confirmed to be 5 feet 3 inches, and she leaned on a young tree about the same height as her if she were to stood up straight, but then the tree grew, which this is where pixels come in handy, because Jericho in this panel is equal to 50.845 pixels, and I had to measure her legs from her foot to her knee first, then from her knee to her waist, then to her waist to her head, which if you add all the pixels together, you get about 50.845 pixels. And the young tree that grew is at 232.034 pixels, meaning it grew 4.5 times taller in a few seconds, or 23 feet 7.5 inches. And assuming that the tree grew this much, or can grow this much in a day instead of a few seconds, that would mean that the ancient Fairy King's forest, before its destruction 3,000 years later, it must have grown 25,869,375 feet, which for those that are confused with that number, multiply 23 feet 7.5 inches by 1,095,000, since that's how many days are in 3,000 years. With this information, we can find the height of mountains and 7 deadly sins, which based on this perfect scan of the ancient Fairy King's forest, on the day Bond meets Elaine, we see multiple mountains dwarfing the trees, which if we pixel calc it, the trees are so small that they wouldn't even be considered 1 pixel. But for the sake of argument, I will say they are 1 pixel tall. Compared to the biggest mountain I could calc, which is 59 times difference. I will explain why I'm using the bigger mountain later. I will also convert the numbers into meters instead of feet and inches, which means the mountains is 465,216,333.27 meters, meaning a mountain can be 100 and 33.88 times that of the diameter of the moon, or around 3.2 times the diameter of Jupiter. With this information, we can now use this and apply it to the mighty thick Albion, which is stated to be mountain size, and we see it dwarfing the clouds. We also see a slight curvature of the planet, meaning the Albion is indeed that big. We also see the skinny Albion be so big you can literally see more curvature of the planet. And I know some instances the author makes it smaller to fit it in the panels, but that doesn't change anything. It's just for plot, or not even plot, it's more so for art. Anyway, this is important because it is stated that the Albion is nothing more than a flea compared to the size of the Behemoth, which this is further backed up when we see the big boy Albion lying down and we start zooming out to the point where the Albion is no longer visible. That's right, if we were to put Jupiter or something that's 3.2 times that of Jupiter on the Behemoth, it would be so small that you won't even be able to see it if you compare the size of that to the Behemoth. And even the hairs on its back is bigger than the Albion, just to add on. Which, based on the length, which I'll be using kilometers instead of meters, the length of the Behemoth is 750.614 times longer than the length of the Albion lying down, which obviously, since the Albion is completely invisible, we can't see it compared to the Behemoth size. I'm just assuming, well, I'm just highballing it to just 1 pixel instead of 0 pixels. So anyways, that would mean that the Behemoth is 340,197,892.78 kilometers long, and the width of the Behemoth's stomach is 84,822,894.5 kilometers, and the base of its tail, the width of its tail, is 71,322,316.5 kilometers, and the length of its arms and legs are 61,082,904.54 kilometers, and its mouth is 82,710,346.68 kilometers when it opens its mouth all the way. There are also a total of 9 different size mountains that are measurable that I was able to measure, which I did the pixel measurement, and I will not say the height of those mountains, but I will add them in to see how many Earths can fit inside the Behemoth if it was hollowed out. And thanks to ChatGPT doing the hard work for me, we could fit 80, oh no, not 80, 831.5 trillion Earth-sized planets in the Behemoth, and it is 738.8 million times bigger than our sun, which is very big. But that still isn't enough to be a percentage of our solar system. It's in its negatives. Obviously, this is a high-end meta, but you can use a more simplified method, which is calculating the height of the Albion, which I pointed out that we can't see the curvature of the Earth, which, assuming 7 deadly planets is just our planet size, which it's actually bigger, but anyways, we can then calculate how big the Albion is, which I got ChatGPT to do that for me, and the fat, chubby Albion is about 65 kilometers tall, lowboard. Seeing how the Albion is bending down almost at a 90-degree angle, but even if we were to say that it's only 65 kilometers tall, the Behemoth is so much bigger than it that the Albion isn't even visible compared to the Behemoth, making the Behemoth 55,250,000 kilometers, or 40 times bigger than the sun. Although I think the high end method is more accurate due to confirmed measurements of trees and then comparing those trees to the mountains and then comparing the mountain to the Behemoth. Anyway, that's all I have to say on the topic. Tell me what you think down below in the comment section. And also, 93% of y'all haven't subscribed to the channel yet. And if you are one of those 93%, then please subscribe. I am trying to get monetized by YouTube, which will help me make money to pay for my editors. And the more money I can make, the better the quality my videos will be. And I do need 500 subscribers to start off the monetization. And the more subs I get and comment, then the more I know what y'all want me to do. But not everything will be for free. I do have thirsty editors to feed my money to, so I may ask for donations or request donations to help me pay for my editors. So subscribe and leave a comment down below. But till next time, peace.